Recording in progress.
Of course, so important for me to get support from people who had walked the journey before and how that played an important role in helping me to thrive and helping me to be able to adjust. And so today I will be sharing a little bit more about why we decided to come up with this program, but I'll start by sharing and giving highlights about the about Annot. And so I'll share a few slides so that that can help you at least remember what the program is about. Okay, and so if you can help with pulling up a few slides, and then I can go through the slides. But basically, I would like to start by uh, thanking our speakers who have come out today. We have a wonderful panel of speakers who, like me, came from different parts of Africa and started off and also went through different aspects of their journey and had different people who mentored them, whether it was formal mentorship or informal mentorship, and were able to go through challenges, but through the support of others, were able to thrive. And today they've decided to come and share what those experiences were like for them. And so what Anna does, basically, our organization is a nonprofit organization. If we can go to the next slide. Our organization is a nonprofit organization that operates here in the United States. And our main focus is really on youth empowerment as well as education. We operate in the US and we operate in Zimbabwe. In Zimbabwe, we primarily focus on educational initiatives, which is giving access to education to students who are in rural Zimbabwe. And then in the United States, we mainly focus on youth mentorship programs, particularly focusing on African immigrant students. And as I was sharing at the very beginning, my experience as I first came here, I had been in an education system in Zimbabwe where what it meant to thrive in that system was pretty different from what I experienced when I came here. I grew up being pretty sharp. I was pretty much a genius. And so part of that was just really basically reading and cramming stuff, which I was pretty good at. And that was really something I never struggled with school because that formula worked for me. But I started to learn other things as I got here, that I needed to do in order to be able to thrive, which are outside just being a bookworm, which also meant, I needed to network, which also meant I needed to do several other things in an academic setting that would help me to thrive. I needed additional skills, and I had different mentors, some of which are part of our program today, who helped me to build and strengthen those skills as I started out my journey here. I also needed to start participating more, and I learned that the hard way. I went to the Harvard Kennedy School, and I took a class at the Harvard Business School. And one of the things that traumatized me was how I needed to participate a lot. And there was a participation mark of just, sharing your ideas and trying to really find audience to make my thoughts known in that class. And that contributed 50% of my overall marks. And that was something I really wasn't used to, but I needed to really stretch myself. And so part of all that cultural adjustments are things I never knew. So I was constantly on the phone calling some of my mentors and asking them, how do I, thrive in this environment? And so I noticed that it wasn't just about, I wasn't the only one. A lot of students who come here, some come actually at undergrad level and have not even experienced or even experienced more amplified challenges. I started to see that there are common stories that students are facing, not just academic adjustment, but even isolation, not having family members or just a sense of community. And these are some of the issues that students are facing. And so we designed a program called the Annot Youth Mentorship Program that's really mostly focusing on helping students to adjust culturally, helping students to be able to have supportive networks. And so our program is really going to be a 6-month program where students are in cohorts. You're not just going through life alone in college, but you are in cohorts or in small groups, and you have access to a mentor who can walk you through how do you adjust culturally, what are some of the immigration challenges, and how do you navigate them. You'll notice that our speakers today are going to talk to you about immigration issues. Some are going to touch on issues to do with adjusting culturally. Some will touch on issues to do with jobs. But when you are part of the mentorship program, you'll be able to do that in smaller groups and have a mentor you can access one-on-one, so that you're not walking this journey alone. And so our program is really going to focus mostly on undergrad students because undergraduate students need more hand-holding and more support. So we invite, if you're new to the US and you are in college, we really invite all to apply, but we'll pay more attention to undergraduate students, particularly first or second year students. Next slide. And so the structure of the program will include small group discussion sessions, as we've mentioned, group webinars, and an example of the webinar is the webinar we're having today. And when you see the information that's going to come out of this webinar, that's sort of a snapshot of the type of content you'll get in the smaller mentorship sessions. However, it will be more intimate because it's a small group of 5 or 3 people, and you will have a mentor, probably a mentor like myself or any one of the speakers you see who you will have access to, and you'll meet them on a monthly basis. So you have at least time to discuss issues and to get hands-on support and community. And there's also opportunities to do community or wellness activities. Sometimes you just need to find somebody to go for a hike or a movie with because, isolation are some of the challenges we sometimes face as immigrants, right? Because we're so far away from home. And so that cohort becomes, a form of, support in a way. And, the format is really hybrid and in person. When I was looking at people who registered for a webinar, were people from across 8 states, so we're in different places. We'll narrow it down, obviously, but we'll make use of hybrid and in person. And so that's in essence what the program format looks like. The topics are going to be mostly academic and cultural adjustment, immigration awareness, and you're going to hear today from our immigration attorney on some of the high-level issues, and we'll go in depth in the program. Internships and jobs, when do you start thinking about this? Financial wellness and mental wellness leadership, but would love to hear more from you as well on some of the issues that are affecting you. So the application will also include a question that asks you, what really do you want to hear about or learn about during this program? And so as I conclude, the next steps are for you to apply. There's a link that our team members who are here are going to post in the chat. I think they've already started posting. If not, we'll be posting throughout the webinar. Once this webinar is done, if you want to get more content and be part of this community, we encourage you to apply. The program will launch in April, so we're going to take 2 weeks for you to complete the applications, but do it as soon as you can because we'll be admitting on a rolling basis and we'll take cohort by cohort. So you might be in the first or the second cohort. It depends on when you apply. So that is the call to action. And then I will now call upon our moderator who will take us through our session today. And our moderator is a wonderful friend of mine who actually helped me throughout my phase when I came as a new immigrant student. Her name is Dr. Tatenda Mujeni, who is a global health systems strategist and leader with over a decade of experience leading impact-driven global programming across 16 countries in Africa. She has great work in health systems and governance, in financing, and has really helped to strengthen innovative and technology systems across Africa. She's a doctor of public health from the Harvard University and has a master's of public health from Columbia University. Dr. Tatenda serves on the board of Harvard. She helps many students and has been mentoring a lot of students, and will today introduce a panel of incredible speakers who will be sharing insights with us. Tatenda has been a personal mentor to myself and has helped me with immigration issues. And so, Tatenda, I am so proud to welcome you and to offer you the floor. Over to you.
Thank you so much, Chieza. I do not know why my camera decided right now is the time that it does not want to work. So hopefully it comes on at some point in time. so you all can see my lovely face. But either way, it is a pleasure and an honor to be here. We'll figure it out. To be here today with such a powerful group of other panelists or participants. Today, we've got two other panelists. Our third panelist, Munyachogai, was unable to make it today, and I know some of you were excited to hear from him. But I feel like it's still going to be a very rich conversation with the people we have over here. Chiedza, I don't think you wanted to be part of this panel discussion, but we're going to be calling on you as well because it says thriving in the U.S. Colleges, the power of mentorship for new immigrant students. I feel like you're one of those people who has thrived, like basically with having Annot supporting other people, you have thrived. So we'll be calling on you. But before I begin and just delve into what is going to be a conversation more than anything else, I would like to introduce my fellow panelists and speakers. And as I introduce them, they can start their video. Hopefully theirs actually works and not like what mine is doing right now. But I'll start with Maud Chifamba. Maud is an investment banking professional at a leading Wall Street firm and an MBA graduate of the Wharton School and London Business School. Originally from rural Zimbabwe, she became the youngest university student in Africa at age 14 and is passionate about mentorship and expanding access to education and global career paths. Beyond her corporate career, Maud served in governance roles in Zimbabwe, including as chairperson of the Zimbabwe Youth Council, board and finance committee chair at the Postal and Telecommunications Regulatory Authority of Zimbabwe, supporting digital inclusion and youth initiatives. When I said we're having people who are thriving, I mean, I'm here with giants, and so many people already know Maud, and I'm excited to be here. But Maud, welcome. We're excited to have you here and just hear your insights from in this panel discussion. Thanks for joining us.
Thank you. Very happy to be here.
Great. Our next panelist is Niels Kinwani. Niels works as a policy counsel for African Communities Together, ACT, where he advises on immigration policies in that capacity. Niels has successfully led numerous advocacy campaigns, including those for temporary protected status, TPS, for DRC, Mali, South Sudan, Somalia, and Ethiopia, as well as humanitarian parole for Sudan. Neil serves as a member of the Charles County, Maryland Board of Social Services. So yes, another one who has thrived, but also bringing in a perspective of just like an immigration expert in these conversations that we're having as we're specifically talking to immigrant students. So Niels, it's a pleasure and an honor to have you here. Welcome.
Thank you. Happy to be here.
Happy to be. I'm feeling a little bit out with this camera. I don't know. It's I don't know. They say you got jealous on me from Zimbabwe, but it's okay. What we do is we continue moving and we thrive in any way the way we are. As I said, Maud and Niels, this is going to be more of a conversation than anything else. We would have loved to have Munya here, and they had some insights on careers, as people have seen his profile. But maybe you may also be sharing in and chiming in on some of these conversations about careers and how you navigated postgraduate employment in the US. But before we begin, I'd like each of you to share a brief 2-minute opening statement. So I'll be timing you here. And just share what was your experience coming to the US from Africa to study for the first time, and what was the most challenging adjustment you faced? And in reflecting on your journey, how did mentorship, both formal and informal, shape your success in college or your transition into the workforce? And I know this is a loaded question. And why do you believe structured programs like the Annot Youth Mentorship Program are so critical for today's immigrant students? Maud, I'll start with you.
Hi, everyone. Thank you again. Thank you for inviting me. Thank you to the Annot team for putting this together. As I already said, like I'm passionate about mentorship, so it's really like a privilege to be able to sit in rooms and have these conversations. So basically, I mean, why I love Zimbabwe is basically in my the bio that you read out. I studied in Zimbabwe. I did my undergrad and my master's degree actually in Zimbabwe, and then I started off my career in Zimbabwe, and I worked. While I did some sort of virtual work, I was primarily resident and based in Zimbabwe for the first, I'd say, 26 years of my life. So I literally had 5 years of work experience in Zimbabwe. For the career that I wanted to have, for particularly finance, investment banking, Zimbabwe just did not have such platforms, right, where I could do that. So that's when it became pretty clear for me that I needed to leave. And if you're looking for finance, capital markets, I don't think there are places that match the depth and breadth of the US. So that was primarily why I moved here. I would say one of the main challenges that I first was probably trying to think that whatever was making me win when I was in Zimbabwe would make me win here. Basically, staying, expecting a Zimbabwean experience while we're not in Zimbabwe. And I would say it took a lot of time and a lot of conversations with mentors for me to start to be on a journey of unlearning a lot of cultural things, a lot of just the way things are done and how the world is interpreted there for me to start looking at, okay, so how do I win here? I think I used to just call myself like a patriot Zimbabwean and always going to be a Zimbabwean. And I think I started winning when I started to have conversations and people highlighting to me that you can be a Zimbabwean who is based in the US and you can start winning there instead of just trying to put your identity as being a Zimbabwean, because what works in the Zimbabwean context or in the African context will not work here. They're primarily different worlds. And if you want to thrive, you kind of have to know how to be like a chameleon, like, okay, now I'm in the US, I will do this. And then when I'm back home, this is how I win.
Great. Thank you so much, Maud. And I'm probably going to come back to you on that cultural experience and the adjustments and some tips on that. But Niels, I'm going to go to you and just your opening brief statement on your own experience and what shaped your success in the US.
Well, thank you so much, Dr. Tatende, and thank you so much to the Annot team for having me. Maybe I'll be very brief here. I think the biggest challenge for me was finding, and the same challenges that many immigrant students face, is finding what options are available to you. You know, I'll be talking a lot about immigration today, and immigration is a hot topic now, and a lot of the policies are changing. So it's very, very important for immigrant students, especially those on visa, to understand what options are available to them, but also understanding compliance with as an international student or student with any type of visas. So I'd say the biggest challenge is for me and for many immigrant students that I've worked with is to determine to find what options are available to them in terms of career options, compliance options, and then what they can or can't do as part of their visa status.
Awesome. Awesome. Thanks so much, Niels. And I can't wait to delve into these conversations about immigration from the experiences that we've all had, for Maud, myself, and also just like talking about the experiences that we are in right now, because the immigration situation has kind of shifted right now, but we'll get to those questions. But I just want to just follow up and push a little bit and hear more from you. How did mentorship, whether it's formal or informal, play a role in your experience in the US?
Should I start or ladies first? Mo, do you wanna go?
I think
You can go
okay.
ahead. It's fine.
So I think, for me, the mentorship was really important in terms of, just, basic things, understanding the country, right? Understanding, because also background, I come from the Democratic Republic of the Congo.
Mm-hmm.
And the first challenge for any international student who comes from the Congo, a French-speaking country, is the language, right? So you have to learn the language. So apart from culture and customs and just familiarizing yourself with the new environment, language is sometimes the first barrier that people face. So learning the language and understanding what options are available, and then deciding. So after learning the language, so you have to decide which major. I know that a lot of people make those decisions back home, um, but when you are here, then you need to understand your career, any career that you want to embrace, the outlook of that career. So I think mentorship really helped me understand the career outlook, like what is the curriculum, the education curriculum that you have to follow, and then how to be successful in the career that you're gonna choose. Especially at the undergrad level, that is very, very critical, because that kind of like lays the foundation of your academic and career journey. So working with a mentor to understand your to make your career choice, to understand your options and make that career choice. So that was very, very working with a mentor, and that process was very helpful.
Awesome, awesome. Thanks so much, Niels. And you highlight something that is so important. I was just thinking about what are the important, what is the importance for informal and formal mentorship for myself. And the first thing that came to my mind was actually peer mentorship, right? We have mentorship from students who are there, and peer maybe like students who are international students who are in second or third or fourth year. And that was my experience. When I came in, I went to a small liberal arts college at HBCU in Greensboro, North Carolina. And when I started, I was that year the only international student, I believe, coming in straight from Africa. And the power of mentorship were the students who were then seniors, I think, in their fourth year. And one I can actually remember was already like a mature student. She had graduated from the Caribbean, come back to the US. But then just from the first year when everything's overwhelming, you're standing on those lines, and we're going to age ourselves over here on those lines to register. I don't know how it happens now, and just like it's just hot in summer in North Carolina, and not knowing which classes to take. Yes, I was a science major, biology major, but it was this mentorship from these older students who guided me to say, okay, how about you take some of these courses that will help you when you're graduating. If you want to be a science major, make sure you take these courses or you do an internship by the end of the year. And part of like our mentorship, or the people that I have mentored, is just like, yes, you're coming in and in August of the year, but then by November, December, people are already applying for internships for the summer and the next year. And sometimes having a mentor, there's that information which you might have missed if you're not able to speak to other people. And as I said, yes, for me, it's been both informal in the sense of students, but also formal, and maybe there might be someone else on the campus. So that is really, really insightful. So thanks for that. And Mount, what was your experience with mentorship as you came in? I came in as an undergraduate. What does it mean for mentorship or mentorship you received as a graduate student and someone who has had life experiences? Was it still important for you?
Would say yes. And I would just preface this by saying, for me, I think throughout my career, I've been privileged to have mentors. In the I mean, when I started off being born in like rural Zimbabwe, I actually didn't know anyone who had gone to university before.
Mm.
Like my family, I was the first person to go to university, so everything was completely new. But thank God, who is gracious, because by me becoming like going to university at 14, I got a lot of people that were very interested in like helping me, holding my hand through a lot of different life experiences. So I think I sort of like then learned to just default back to being like mentored. Like there are a
Mm.
lot of people out there that have gone through life, and I think there's this quote that says, "Only a fool learns from his own mistakes. The wise man learns from the mistakes of others." And I think and this just doesn't go for just negative experiences, it goes for positive experiences too. And I think to your point about mentorship, not, I think when people hear the word mentorship, they think people that have blown the water out of the river, people that have gone and done like things that are relatively huge. But most of the times you can get mentorship from a lady from church in one department that you want to learn in, right? You
Mm.
can get mentorship from like for example, when I was in business school, I think it's part of mentorship to actually be like, okay, I want to go to London. Who has lived in London? What is the experience? Where should I live? That's part of like mentorship, just allowing that somebody that he has gone through life before guides you, or he has gone through what you're thinking of going through, guides you through that journey. Now, moving to the US, it was also incredibly important because I think the US, especially for school, and I think we'll talk about this a little bit later, you kind of work from the future backwards, right? You kind of have
Mm.
to figure out what is it that you want to do, and then figure out how do I get there. Like you don't just come and be like, okay, I'm gonna do my degree in accounting and then I'm gonna figure it out. Usually you have to kind of think ahead. Okay, I want to
Mm.
get into investment banking. So what do I do? Because when you get here, we got here in August, October recruiting kicked off. So you kind
Mm.
of have to have someone who has already gone through this, who's willing to help you with like your resume, who's willing to help you with how do you even pitch yourself? Because again, there are differences in how do you even introduce yourself from different contexts, whether that's in Zimbabwe or wherever you're coming from versus the US. Even people who come from like even not like African countries, even other countries, they actually find the US a different place to navigate.
Mm.
So as you come into this different situation, it is incredibly important that you find people, or that you are afforded the opportunity of people that have walked the journey that you want to walk on,
Mm.
um, so that they guide you on the journey. And sometimes it's also you find people that have walked a journey that you think you want to walk on, and they'll tell you, and you figure out that that's not the journey you want
Mhm.
to go on, especially given that this is a system that works from, you work backwards. You work with what do I want to do, and then how do I then make the steps that I need to get there.
Mhm.
So I had to get like people who have done things. I'm interested in this. Okay, can I grab you for coffee? Can you tell me your experience? And that was very incredibly important in like solidifying what it is that I wanted to do and how I was going to come up with a game plan of how to get that.
This is incredible. And I know people are taking down notes about working backwards. And mean it's interesting, Maud, because you're coming in, you knew exactly what you wanted to do. You were ready in your career, or you're pursuing a career, you're in Zimbabwe. So yes, you're completely working backwards. And maybe that's the case for undergraduate students as well. But I feel like I'm just looking at my own thing of what I said I was going to do 18 years ago when I came to the US is different. Yeah, I'm a doctor at the end of the day. I was going to be a doctor of veterinary medicine. I'm a doctor of public health, but some things shifted along the way. And I think for both of those things, both of those truths can stand in where I'm brilliant. I'm going to be writing this work backwards, and to all students, where do you want to go and what do we need to get you to where you're getting there? And for so many of us, it's get you're going to go into these different experiences. And from learning from these different experiences, you might learn that this is actually not the path you want to take. And or maybe Niels might say, on an immigration status, maybe you want to stay a little bit longer. Maybe you want to do STEM. Have you considered STEM? And maybe you were not ever considering STEM and you were good in it. And or you go a totally different path. So I really appreciate both of those experiences, and mentorship supports in both with those in both those aspects. For me, it was just like taking classes that I could never have imagined. And I ended up in public health when I thought I was going to be like hardcore science and going into vet medicine. And this brings me to another question. Maud, I'm going to chime on you before we then move on to our immigration about the experiences you have. You talked about the recruitment started like soon after you arrived, and then you've got all these other things happening at school. Can you tell me about beyond academics? Because you're an academic, and Cheers was talking about your Cheers an academic as well, and like we're surrounded by these people. You pretty much have to be brilliant to be at Wharton Business School. But academics enough? What about campus involvement, and how can that shape the student experience? And what advice would you give for immigrant students or international students to intentionally pursue campus opportunities, clubs, leadership roles, networking events, and how that plays into your own professional growth and how important it was, or specifically how important it was to you?
That's a good question. And I think when we're if someone has had like parts of their early education being not like in the US, I think the education system is very different. Well, from my experience, unless you went to like, because I do know like there are some schools that sort of like mimic a similar sort of education, experience. But for most of us coming from like Zimbabwe, for example, we're coming from boarding school where all you had to do was study. Like the most liked person or the most successful person was the person that spent all their time in the library and knew all the answers to everything. We would have study early in the morning, study in the evening, and stuff like that. And when you come here, I think post grad, for me, fortunately or unfortunately, academics were actually not that important for post grad. However, for undergrad, your GPA is very important for where you end up, right? So at Wharton, I had to share classes with some undergrads. So they would open up like classes for both like MBAs and undergrads. And you could see that the undergrads were having a totally different experience from what the MBAs were having. So I'll preface with that. But from my observations and also just then mentoring the undergrads, here it's not enough to just be the person that has the 4.0 GPA or whatever it is. It's not enough to just be the brilliant person, because I feel like back home, back in Africa, for example, you would have actually like companies looking for who is the best student and all of that. Over here, yes, you put that on your resume, but it's not like necessarily like the direction is different. It's not like companies coming and looking at who is your best student in this accounting class. We want to give them a role here. It's more like over here you have to hustle your way into things. Cheers is my good friend, so we actually were talking about this the other day about how the way recruiting works around here is very different from how it works at home, where at home you finish your degree, you drop off your CV, your uncle knows someone, they call someone in there and you get a job. Or as I said, you're the best student or whatever, and they come through and they're looking for you. Over here, you get the job based on who you know, but the difference is everybody has the opportunity to get known by anyone. That's the difference. You don't have to be your uncle or your mother or your whatever. You have to put yourself out there. and you will then get the opportunity to get known by everyone. When it's the Super Bowl weekend, we're talking about you watch the Super Bowl, whether you're interested in football or not. I honestly don't understand what it is. I just know that it's the quarterback, and I know that it was Bad Bunny playing. But when you get to school the following day, people are talking about, did you watch the Super Bowl?
Oh, yeah.
Right? And you want to be someone who's able to contribute to that conversation. You go to these clubs because they're also like career clubs at these schools, right? Like, oh, do you want to do investment banking? There's a finance club. Do you want to do consulting? There's a consulting club, right? They invite these people over to come through. These people are not going to come over there and start talking about how do you build a DCF model. That's not what they actually start talking to you about. They actually be like, oh, so how was your weekend? And you were sleeping, and then, oh, did you watch Bad Bunny performance? And someone would come in and say, oh, I really liked when he called out this country. It was so interesting. And then they will start to network and they start to find similarities there. And that's how you get known, and that's how you get opportunities. But if you don't have context of the country, you are not involved in the activities and the things that everybody is following, then you will find it very, very difficult to assimilate into the society. And then you also then find yourself feeling left out, right? Because most of these relationships, even the mentorship conversations, these things will happen organically, and you need to find a place to connect with people. When I was talking about me feeling stuck in Zimbabwe, was like, when I came here, I think I was like, I will only listen to my Zimbabwean artists. Like, people would be like, oh, there's a new album, this new album. I would just be like, I don't enjoy American music. Like, people are like, oh, let's go to this game. I'm like, I don't. Next thing, 2-3 weeks later, people have gone to these 3 games together. They are now friends. And before you know it, this one is linking this one to, oh yeah, my old boss told me that there's this opposition open. But you see how the connections happen in these other organic ways. And if you isolate yourself and you don't put yourself out there, you just make it difficult for people to find you. And over here, I feel like things go by, who do you know, or who knows you? Who do you know and who knows you and is able to speak about you when you're not there?
Man, Mount, I can sit here and listen to you all this time, and I wish I had you as a mentor when I was in my undergraduate years. And you speak, someone just shared, like Rachel Johnson, I think you're speaking all truths, and these are so true and facts. And everyone has an opportunity to get known by anyone. For me, that was just so powerful. And that maybe this is going to be something that Annot, maybe Chieza, you can share with us, to be like, how does someone put themselves out there? And Maud, maybe will come back and say, how do you put yourself? I mean, I feel like you're already a figure as it is, but maybe there might be some here who are so young, coming from high school in Zimbabwe, but how do I put myself out there? How do I make myself known? And there's something interesting about everybody else, and also something very so valuable and interesting about ourselves and our backgrounds. And I'm just saying Zimbabwe, but we've got DRC, we've got Angola, we've got so many countries represented here as well. That is so interesting. But just being able to put yourself out there and being part of this cultural experience. If I had one thing that I regretted about my time in college, is not to fully engage in cultural experiences outside of just like in this little niche. We are Africans and we're going to do well and we're going to just excel. And I just love how you explained being a brilliant student is not enough. It's not going to get you where you need to go. And we can delve deeper into this. I see where our time is going, but I also kind of want maybe to kind of shift it to preparation when it comes to employment. I'll ask a little bit to you, Niels, about just the immigration. And as we're thinking about, yes, mentorship, academics, these cultural experiences, which we have learned from out of many of the places where we actually might get those opportunities as we go into school. I know, Niels, you've had a significant experience advising African immigrants communities on U.S. immigration policies. What are some key things that newly arrived immigrants or international students should understand about their immigration status when starting college? And why is the role of a designated school official, for instance, so critical? And how does it play in their academic journey as well as post-academic? Because part of the United States, the opportunities we have in the United States is, yes, to learn here, but we also have OPT, where we can get work authorization to work and gain experience well after we graduate. So what should students be thinking about as they're starting school?
No, thank you so much, Dr. Tatende. That's a very important question, especially now as things are shifting very quickly with immigration policies. Maybe I'll start with an anecdote, a quick story. I know we don't have much time. So a few months ago, I was handling this case for an international student, so someone who came to the US with an F1 visa. And the person attended school 1 or 2 semesters and then dropped out. So he stopped going to school and never made any contact with the school officials. You mentioned the designated school official. So that usually, for those who don't know, DSO is the person who's in charge of essentially international students, so advising international students and guiding them for compliance. So in terms of complying with their F1 status. Now, this person dropped out, attended a couple of semesters, dropout, and he never went back to school or made contact with the DSO and his school officials, right? And this person was driving in DC, got pulled over, and um, he was pulled over by the DC police, and then later on transferred to immigration authorities. I mean, I know that there's a lot of things that people are seeing in the news about immigration enforcement. So for international students, this case, I think, will show the common mistake that people make, international students make, and that can lead to enforcement, detention, and in some cases deportation. But anyways, this person, going back to the story, this person was then referred to immigration authorities, and he had no idea because when he was pulled over after he dropped out, he filed an application for asylum, and as most of you know, I'm assuming, when an application for asylum gives you legal presence to stay in the US. But this person then did not understand why he was being apprehended by immigration authorities. When then the case was referred to immigration court, and in reviewing his case, we found out that when he dropped out of school, his case, so his name, his profile was flagged to immigration authorities, right? So, and this is very, very important for international students to understand. We know things happen. There's a number of reasons why people drop out. But it's very important if you are, for people who are considering, for one reason or another, considering dropping out, it's important to work with your designated school officials. You have options. Remember what I said in the beginning of my intervention, that knowing what options are available to you is very, very powerful. For international students, let's say you are not able, because international student, you pay out of state tuition rate, which is twice or 3 times the rates that in-state students will pay for in-state tuition rates. So let's say you are not able to continue your studies because you just can't afford paying out of state tuition rate. There is a possibility, and you have to work with a designated school official where they can, if you are experiencing financial hardship, they can allow you to take um, part-time load course load, a part-time course load. So meaning that as an international student, you have to maintain a full course load. So that's usually around 12 credits. And if you're experiencing financial hardship, you can apply for an exception, and then they can allow you to take less than 12 credits, right? And that can make a difference. That can help. So if you're not able to afford a full course of study or course load, then you can take less than the required credits per semester. So always work with your designated school official. And when I talked to this person, he told me that he was not aware of that option, right? He told, he was not aware of the option that he could apply or request an exception to take less than 12 credit per semester.
I
So it's very important. If you're experiencing financial hardship or for one reason or another, please work with your DSO. For medical reasons, there is a possibility to apply for an exception to take less than a full course a full course load if you are experiencing medical reasons. So, but dropping out without notifying your DSO or any school official, you should know that you will be flagged, referred to immigration authorities.
that's
And as the risk for enforcement increases, you are making yourself at
target.
risk for
Yeah.
detention and a potential deportation. So it's very
And
important, regardless of the situation that you are facing, and we know that it's tough time in the U.S.
I
now, right?
I think you're
And back
speaking
home.
to somebody over here, Niels.
Yeah.
I say this because I was an international student for multiple years for all my degrees in the US essentially. And I never knew that there was the opportunity to do so. And all this to say, I believe everybody here, and our experience might have been different, and right now even much more, right? With the current situation where people might have several consequences that like maybe your funding has been reduced for some reason from your school, and or sometimes it's mental health. And I think maybe this is where Annot and the mentorship also comes in. Sometimes we're just isolated, not isolated just from opportunities, but isolated from our families, from communities, and it's tough. It's not always easy. We talk about it like we thrived because literally you have to thrive to get here. So it's good to learn about what can we do and where to go. And Chieza and I were both at Harvard. I'm sure for the different schools, we had different international student officials who worked with us, but they in some way were a form of a mentor because they knew all of these things. And you can't run away and try to figure it out by yourself, or be two of you and you're new and you're international students trying to do your research when there are resources like Niels, when there are resources like your international student office who are literally trained to support you through these. So please take advantage of those. I've got very few minutes, but Niels, I want to ask you a question and then maybe talk briefly with everybody else about our career opportunities. But I want to know, there's all these, we hear even in the news, OPT, CPT, HB1, H1B, whatever, all these different pathways for career or to work in the US. Some of them are during when you're in school, and I'm saying this because I've taken advantage of it. For instance, should I take OPT when I get an opportunity, or what does it mean for my H1B, and what are some of the pathways you should take or have taken? So I just want to hear briefly, like in 1 minute, what should students consider during their education and also planning for to remain in status or to remain to having all of their immigration papers in order after they graduate?
Yes, thank you so much. Very important question. So, very briefly here, there are three options usually for international students to work in the US. The first path or the first option is called CPT, Curriculum Practical Training. And that's for people who are still in school before pre-graduation. You have OPT, and I'm sure most of us here are familiar with that option. Right after graduation, it's usually 12 months, and then you have STEM OPT if your degree field qualifies as a STEM field. And that's usually 24 months, right? And one thing that I want to flag here for OPT, there's usually time deadlines and time requirements. So if you have OPT, you can't just stay home and not work, right? Like you have to start working at a particular time. So always work with your DSO to understand those deadlines around your OPT validity period, right? And then after STEM, if you're qualified for some for STEM OPT, then you have 24 months. In terms of employment-based visa, I know H-1B is the most popular visa, probably. You need an employer to sponsor you for those visas. So it's important to work with a recruiter or recruitment agency. But also, as we mentioned on this in this webinar, you need to put yourself out there. You need to be out there. And I mean, I will add to what Maud said, volunteering is one way to, put yourself out there and build those relationships that you need to for your career to find jobs.
And we're
But
allowed to volunteer as international students. That doesn't affect us.
most of the time, no, you're allowed to volunteer. You're allowed to volunteer as an international student. Um, but you just have to make sure that it's volunteering. I know there is some volunteering arrangements that can be tricky, so it's always good to have if you are receiving if you have a contract or a job offer for your volunteering opportunity, it's always good to have that reviewed by an attorney who will confirm that, hey, this is volunteering, will not affect your F1 status. Okay, so very, very important to understand that employment-based visas, you need an employer that will sponsor you. There are visas that do not necessarily need an employer a sponsoring employer, but those visas are, for people like Dr. Tatende, who's at the top of her field, or others who have with extraordinary abilities or credentials. Again, happy to answer any questions. We can have a whole talk on this, which I would
Yes.
love to do, but that's like an overview of compliance and things that folks will need to keep in mind. Thank you.
Thanks so much, Niels. And as you said, I feel like every single thread we've spoken about today, our culture, mentorship, immigration, employment opportunities, networking, literally can be a webinar by itself. And I'm sure that the Annot team, I hope everybody is signing up for this mentorship, because I believe that they are webinars as part of this mentorship, and we can expand on all of those. Chietza, I don't know if you can allow us to have 4 minutes or 5 more minutes, just to allow for some students to ask questions. I already know there's one question that's already been asked. So Maud and Niels, I'm going to ask you to do really brief responses, 30 seconds, 1 minute. If you can allow me, Chietza, 5 minutes, is that okay? Thumbs up? Yes. The first question I had seen was, how do I find the right mentor? And people, please put your questions in the chat. Larissa and Hillary, if there are any other questions, you can just shout out. But how do I find the right mentor? Maud or Niels, you can go ahead.
Maud, you wanna go? So I'll give my own experience. During college, so there are different clubs, right? There are like for me, I joined the criminal justice because I did my undergrad in criminal justice. So I joined the criminal justice club. So those clubs will have field trip. For example, I remember we had a field trip to the FBI training academy, right? And then you meet people there. And you just put yourself out there. So I think the first step I would say is look around your campus, right? Look around what are the clubs that you can, I'm not sure if they still call them clubs, it might have other names or committees but look around your campus and see which club you can join, and that's related to your field of studies and your career. So join them, and then usually that's the starting point. That's one way to expose yourself to the people that can train you and offer mentorship.
Thank you so much. Maud, you want to respond to that too as well? You're on mute.
Sorry. I think Niels just summarized it. I don't think there's a place to go find mentors, and I think most of mentorship relationships happen organically.
Okay.
I've had places where I've been allocated a mentor and that person was not interested in investing in me, and he was just like on paper, and it's not really that effective, right? So my main thing would be put yourself out there, and by putting yourself out there, I would say, like, I know it sounds like just like something that cliche that we all say, but like, put yourself out there, forget the power distance. Here in the US, professors are part of the learning experience. Make sure that every professor that teaches you, you have a conversation with them, grab coffee with them, reach out to them, you have something to learn from them. Humility is not a virtue in the United States. Every conversation you have is an opportunity to sell yourself.
Yes.
Remove everything that your mother and your grandmother told you about to be humble back home. Every conversation you have is an opportunity to sell yourself, because people also want to invest where they see potential, right? So always prove to people that you have potential, you're interested, be open to learn. Don't just box yourself into what you know or what you think you want to do. Tatenda, you talked about, I came here thinking you wanted to be something else, and then you ended up doing something else. There's a whole big world that we don't know. And the annoying thing is you don't know what you don't know. So be open to learn, and just keep your options open. And then the other thing, diversify your bones. We used to get this word. This is a phrase is what's in Africa student society, where we said, if you start to see you're spending 80% of your time with people that look like you're boxing yourself into opportunities that just are available of what you know. Diversify your bones. Meet people that don't look like you. Meet people that do or believe in different things, and just be open to learn. Work on your accent too, because sometimes people struggle to hear what you're saying, and people keep saying, what did you say? Can you repeat that? And I actually didn't realize I had an accent until I actually left Zimbabwe, and I was like, wait, I thought I spoke good English. But work on your accent so that people can have an easier time actually like understanding who you are. And again, I thought I was extroverted at home, and I used to get away with it. And people were like, oh, in Shona, Ane Zungu and stuff. And I used to get away with it because I was young. So people just like, oh, she's a child. So she's very energetic or whatever. But here, the definition of what an extrovert is very, very different. So feel confident in speaking up, in speaking your ideas, throwing things out there, because if you say 5 things, most likely one of them is going to be amazing, and people are going to be willing to invest and see the potential that you have.
Incredible. And I feel like you also just like summed it up and gave us just like a closing remarks. I don't know if the Annot team is going to have quotes from Niels and Maud from this session, because there's so much that I feel like we can just share as highlights of what we heard today. And diversify your bones. Yes, please. I'm ready to diversify these bones. So thank you so much. Niels, if you have like 30 seconds to just your final remarks, and then Chiez, I've got a question for you as you're closing us out.
I don't think I have anything else to add. Thank you so
Okay.
much for having me, and then I look forward to keeping in touch.
It's such a pleasure. It's such a pleasure to have both of you, and I kind of need to learn from both of you. Chieta was saying where the today I was like, man, the aunties and uncles of thing. I thought I was a big sister and everything. So the aunties and uncles are here, and I hope you sign up. And if you sign up, see what like remarkable knowledge you will get. I'll tell you, I'll be the first online to get mentorship from Maud and Niels. So if you guys slow down, I don't know where you're gonna end up on this part. But Chiedza, it's just such an honor and a pleasure. Thank you so much because you're the thread that joins all of us together. And I guess this is part of that mentorship, including peer mentoring that has brought us together here with Annot, and so many conversations we had while we were at Harvard as well about just mentorship and the importance of it all. I just want to know from you as you're going out, I mean, you're going to come and wrap it up, just your experience in leadership roles and taking on other opportunities at Harvard, which I saw you do, and how they have been beneficial post graduation, and then what has the mentorship looked like for you as coming in as a mature student, had like worked and had thrived in Zimbabwe, and how has it helped you with your own business and as well as just your career in the US, and then you can take it on from there.
Thank you, Tatenda, and thank you, Mort and Niels. What a brilliant conversation. And I think I can say that mentorship for me played such an incredible role. Yeah, I came from Zimbabwe having worked in very senior roles, and as I came to America, I didn't know basic things that were very important. So, for starters, things like navigating how to thrive in a classroom and really be able to do well and succeed. And the things I did while I was at Harvard, I had no idea were going to lead to my ability to, for example, start Annot. I started Annot at the Harvard Innovation Lab. And that was through mentors. I had people who were from Zimbabwe who had been here before who were saying, hey, don't just sit back and do school. School is important, but meet people. And I am an introvert by nature. I do like to network, but after networking, I need days to recover. But I had to get out and go and keep networking, like Maud was saying. And so that is something I had to constantly do, go to the Harvard Innovation Lab. In as much as sometimes I felt out of place or felt like I don't belong, but I kept on doing that and then started to work on annotating. It was my project actually at the Harvard Business School. And the professor who was helping me with this project is actually now part of our advisory board. And so that was constantly doing work. And then I took the courage to lead the Africa Caucus, a club. I'm sure there are so many clubs at school. And that again, I was afraid to be involved in clubs. And then I was asking myself, but can I lead a club for all the African students at Harvard? I had so many doubts. You know, imposter syndrome sometimes can hit you, but I took the courage to lead that organization. And when I had finished school, I had no idea how that was going to play such a big role. I know Tatenda and Niels spoke about immigration. One of the things I did was I followed the EB1 route that Niels was talking about, which is the extraordinary ability application where you apply directly for a permanent residency. And so I used all the experiences I had at school, which is I was leading a club at Harvard. I started my organization, and all the things I was doing then effectively helped me to prove how I was leading all these organizations and inviting leaders of African nations. The president of Ghana, the vice president of Ghana came to Harvard on one of the events that we organized. I saw people from Ghana. We hosted the president of Ghana. And so all these things we were doing and bringing leaders to the country were some of the things we were, I was talking about in strengthening US-Africa relations. And so being involved, like what Maud was saying, and pushing yourself are some of the things that I did that ultimately helped push my career, which I thought when I graduated I was going to work for the United Nations. and work for the World Bank, but it ended up not going in that manner. I ended up starting an organization, and back home, I never saw myself as someone who could start an organization. I saw myself as an employee, and breaking that mentality of the comfort of being an employee and then starting an organization was also breaking out of character and embracing the American dream, right? Which says you can actually start an organization. And that's something that requires constantly, a daily fight and a daily struggle to say, yes, I can do it against all odds. So I'll end on that note. And because of our time, I'm going to transition to our closing remarks. And I want to say thank you to our panelists. I know that they're very busy. Mard and Niels, I want to say thank you so much. Your remarks were incredible. Your insights were so wonderful. I want to say thank you so much for sharing incredible nuggets with our attendees. I hope that this gave you a snapshot of what you will learn when you are part of the mentorship program. One of the things I didn't mention was the EB1 route. I heard that from Dr. Tatenda. You see the power of information. These are all informal networks. I was sitting in Dr. Tatenda's apartment stressed about how am I going to be here? But Dr. Tatenda is the one who said, try this. And so the mentorship program is for us to share the information and build the cohorts of sharing knowledge. And what happened in this webinar is what we will be doing at a greater length. And so thank you so much to Maud for sharing about, push yourself, go out there. And we hope that we'll continue to inspire you in smaller groups to push yourself, to take internships and to share more stories and also to hear the challenges you're facing and be able to guide you just as other people have provided that guidance to us. And I also want to say to Niels, I didn't even know some of the challenges that students are facing and some of the opportunities that are there. Thank you for sharing about immigration and the pathways that we have as students. And we want to continue to share that information through our mentorship program. And so thank you for taking your time to share this. To all the participants who came today, it's not a mistake that you are here. Please go ahead and apply to join the mentorship program. The information is sometimes hard to get, but this program allows you to connect with speakers and mentors who are going to provide this information for you. So go ahead, we've posted the link and apply, and then we'll take it from there. We'll launch in April. But we're going to look at the applications on a rolling basis. If we have a lot of applicants, we'll have to just work with, the ones that we can take up based on the number of mentors that we have, because we want it to be an intimate mentorship platform. And then lastly, I want to thank the Annot team, Larissa, Hillary. Without you, we wouldn't have been able to host this webinar. They put in so much time designing, the program, designing a lot of the manuals that you will see and the content that will come. We're also going to take your feedback to make sure we're covering all the issues that matter for you. Thank you, Larissa. Thank you, Hillary, and the rest of the board, some of whom are connected, who might not be here, who helped us. So the final next step is just one simple thing. Apply, apply, apply. And the link is right there in the chat. We'll send a follow-up email with all the details in case you don't get the link. Spread the word to others who may not have seen the link. But one next step for you is apply, apply, and apply. Thank you and have a wonderful, wonderful rest of the day. And it's goodbye from us.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, everyone.